My mute sister's daughter spoke one sentence and exposed a plan that was never meant to reach me. Hi, I'm Nathan, 36, and 5 days ago I learned my sister tried to poison me so she could steal our dead mother's money. But the real shock? My 8-year-old niece, the one we all believed was mute her whole life, looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Uncle Nate, don't drink the tea. Mom plotted something bad." The moment the front door clicked shut, everything shattered. I stood in my sister's living room with a polite smile, listening as the taxi pulled away from the curb. Brooke and her husband Jared were on their way to the Caribbean. 5 days of sunshine, overpriced drinks, and staged Instagram photos while I stayed back to watch their daughter, Nola. I turned, expecting to see her reaching for her iPad to type out a greeting. That was our usual routine. I'd read her messages, she'd nod or smile, we'd build Lego castles or bake cookies, and everything was calm. But not this time. Nola wasn't holding her iPad. She wasn't signing or even moving. She was just standing there, dead still, staring at me with this strange intensity. Not fear, not confusion. Something else. Something urgent. And then she spoke. Not a sound. Not a grunt. Not a whisper. She spoke. "Uncle Nate," she said. Clear. Perfect. Like she'd been doing it her whole life. "Don't drink the tea Mom made. She plotted something bad." I dropped the thermos I was still holding. It thudded to the floor, rolled slightly, then stopped near the fridge. My niece. The little girl I adored. The child who hadn't made a single sound since she was a toddler, not a word in nearly 6 years, just warned me that my sister had tried to poison me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. So instead, I did the only thing I could. I knelt down, leveled my eyes with Nola's, and whispered, "Sweetheart, what did you just say?" She didn't flinch. "You can't drink it," she repeated. "She made it bad on purpose. She said it won't kill you. Just make you real sick. So you can't stop her." I looked down at the thermos like it was a live grenade. Then back at Nola. "How do you know this?" Her lips pressed into a tight line. She hesitated. And then she said something that chilled me more than any warning ever could. "I wasn't supposed to talk," she whispered. "Mom said if I ever talked again, something terrible would happen to you." Everything inside me went cold. I sat back against the cabinet, stunned. The kid who loved books, who smiled every time I read her stories, who I believed couldn't speak, not wouldn't, couldn't, had been silent for years to protect me? I blinked hard, tried to breathe. "Nola," I said softly, "I need you to tell me everything." And what she said next flipped my world upside down. I sat cross-legged on the kitchen floor while Nola curled up beside me, her little knees drawn tight to her chest like she was bracing for a storm. Her voice was soft but steady. Too steady. Like she'd rehearsed this moment in her head 1,000 times, and now that it was finally here, she couldn't afford to mess it up. "I wasn't always quiet," she said. "When I was little, I talked a lot. Mommy said I asked too many questions. I sang songs and told stories and made up silly rhymes. I remembered that, vaguely. A 2-year-old Nola humming off-key at Christmas, babbling nonsense to the dog, calling me Uncle Nate in a sing-song voice. And then it stopped. Just stopped. I never questioned it. Brooke said doctors diagnosed her with some kind of neurological speech condition when she was 3. Said it was untreatable. Said she was born with it. She said it so often, so convincingly, that it became the truth. But now I saw that wasn't truth. It was strategy. I stopped talking after I heard her on the phone. Nola continued. I went downstairs for juice. She didn't know I was there. She was talking to someone. A man, I think. She said. Nola's voice got smaller. She said you were in the way? That when you were out of the picture they could move everything. That you were so easy to fool. Too nice. Too trusting. I swallowed hard. She said that about me? Nola nodded. And then the next day I asked her, what does out of the picture mean? Her tiny hands clenched around her sleeves. She got mad. Really mad. Grabbed my arms hard. She said, if you love Uncle Nate, you'll never speak again. She said every word I spoke would hurt you. Jesus Christ. I covered my mouth. My stomach turned. Brooke hadn't just lied about Nola's condition. She had weaponized her silence. Trained her own child to believe her voice was dangerous. That love meant staying quiet. She said my words could make you die. Nola whispered. So I stopped. I leaned forward, tears prickling behind my eyes. Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. She looked up at me, her eyes too old for her little face. It's not your fault. You were always nice to me. You always saw me. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just pulled her into my arms and held her tight. We stayed like that for a while, me, shaking on the tile, and Nola, a child who hadn't spoken in nearly 6 years, finally exhaling a breath she'd been holding since toddlerhood. Eventually, I asked, "Why now? Why break your silence today?" Her voice wavered. "Because last night, I heard Mommy say this is the last step. That once you drank the tea, they'd go to the lawyer in Indianapolis. That it would all be over." "Lawyer?" I blinked. "What lawyer?" She nodded solemnly. "The one who's going to move the trust into her name." My blood ran cold. Our mother had passed away 14 months ago. Cancer. The slow, mean kind that eats away at everything. She'd left behind $1. $2 million in a trust, money from Dad's life insurance, decades of careful saving, retirement accounts. She left the trust in both Brooks and my name. Dual signatures required for withdrawals. Mom was smart. Paranoid maybe, but smart. She didn't want one of us spending it all on designer handbags or miracle vitamins. But what if Brooke found a way around that? I thought back to the last time she mentioned the trust. "I'm just glad we have each other," she'd said at the funeral. "It's what Mom wanted. For us to take care of Nola. Together." Now I saw it for what it was, pretext. She needed me out of the way. Temporarily. Long enough to move everything, sign papers, forge a signature, move the money, disappear if necessary. "What exactly did you hear?" I asked Nola gently. She glanced at the thermos still on the floor. "She said it would make you really sick. Not kill you. Just so you couldn't get out of bed. So no one would question the signatures. Said the lawyer didn't know you and wouldn't ask much." I picked up the thermos with trembling fingers, unscrewed the lid. It smelled like chamomile and honey. Calming. Soothing. Perfectly innocent. But underneath? Poison. Not lethal. Just disabling. And in a few days, once the money was gone and the documents were filed, I'd be alone in a hospital bed with no evidence, no witnesses, and no savings. Because that was the other thing. The trust wasn't all I had. I kept a separate account, $8,000, socked away over the years. Quiet emergency money. No one knew about it. Not even Brooke. And now? Now it was my lifeline. I capped the thermos and stood up. Nola looked up at me, worried. "What are you going to do?" I took a breath, steadying myself. "I'm going to stop pretending my sister loves me. And I'm going to make sure she never gets to hurt you, or anyone else, ever again." I'd always known Brooke was manipulative. The kind of person who smiled sweetly while rearranging the knife in your back. But I never thought she'd go this far. Poisoning me? Faking her own daughter's medical condition for years? Forging documents to steal our dead mother's money? I stared down at the thermos again. What the hell kind of tea knocks someone out for days? I needed help. Fast. There was only one person I could trust completely, Logan Mercer. He and I had been friends since undergrad. He became a nurse. I went into finance. Still met up every month for wings and bad sports takes. He was one of the few people who saw through Brooke's polished exterior early on. So I called. He picked up on the second ring. "Nathan? You good?" "Not remotely," I said. "Can you get here? What's going on?" "I think my sister just tried to poison me." Silence. "I'm on my way," he said immediately. 30 minutes. I hung up and turned to Nola. She was hugging her knees again on the couch. "You did the right thing, sweetheart. You know that, right?" She nodded, but her eyes shimmered. "Will Mommy go to jail?" I sat beside her. "That's not your fault. None of this is your fault. Whatever happens next, I'm right here with you. We're going to make this right." 32 minutes later, Logan walked in the door, still in his scrubs, with a med kit slung over his shoulder and a suspiciously large Tupperware of cookies under one arm. "I brought cookies," he said, "because I'm a comforting presence." I filled him in while Nola sat close, watching like a hawk. Logan examined the thermos using gloves from his kit and took a sample. "My buddy works in tox screening at the hospital lab. If this stuff is drugged, we'll know by tonight." He glanced at Nola, then knelt down in front of her. "Hey, kiddo. I'm Logan." She looked at me, hesitant. It's okay, I said. Logan's one of the good guys. She nodded once. He smiled. You're really brave. You know that? This time she almost smiled. Almost. Then Logan stood and turned to me. What else you got? Anything that proves what she's doing? I hesitated. Nola said she knows where Brooke keeps the important stuff. Wait, seriously? Logan looked impressed. Kid's an eyewitness and the inside man? I know the code. Nola said softly. Logan raised a brow. She knows the code? I saw her type it. Nola said. Lots of times. She thought I couldn't understand. I followed Nola down the hallway to Brooke's home office. It looked like something out of Good Housekeeping. Tidy desk, framed motivational quote, fake succulent by the window. Everything perfect. Too perfect. She walked up to a file drawer with a digital lock and typed in 4 digits, 0306. Brooke and Jared's wedding anniversary. Of course. The drawer popped open. Inside, hell. First thing I pulled out was a stack of financial documents, with my signature. Only they weren't my signature. They were close. Scarily close. But the curve on the end was off. The crossbar on the T leaned too far. It was good enough to fool a stranger. But I knew my own handwriting. And my sister had practiced forging it. Page after page, authorization forms, trust access agreements, withdrawal slips. All with my name, all faked. Next was a folder of bank statements. Withdrawals in small amounts, always under $15,000. Over 14 months, they drained nearly $180,000 from the trust without ever triggering a federal flag. I felt sick. She hadn't just planned this. She'd already started. And then came the worst part. A folder labeled Nathan Mental. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside, notes written by Brooke claiming I was unstable. That I'd shown signs of paranoia. Erratic behavior. Alleged panic attacks, fabricated hospital visits. She was creating a paper trail. So when I eventually did find out about the missing money and the forged documents, she'd be ready. Nobody believes the paranoid brother, right? Not with all this evidence. Not with the mute niece who couldn't testify. Only, Nola wasn't mute anymore. Logan snapped photos of everything. This is premeditated fraud, Nate. Wire fraud, forgery, abuse. Probably hits federal levels too, with the trust involved. My phone buzzed. Logan's friend had results from the lab. Chamomile laced with concentrated diphenhydramine, a high dose of a sedative commonly used in sleep aids, and senna, a powerful natural laxative. It would have knocked you on your ass for 72 hours, Logan said. Dehydrated, disoriented, and probably in the ER. Not lethal. Just disabling. Long enough for Brooke to drive to Indianapolis, visit a shady lawyer, forge a few more papers, and empty the trust. Long enough to leave me helpless, confused, and legally stripped of everything. You okay? Logan asked, watching my face. I took a deep breath. No. But I'm awake now. Nola sat nearby, quiet, but not hiding. Not this time. Uncle Nate? She said. I looked up. Yeah? Can I stay with you forever? My throat closed up. Yes, I said. Forever. And in that moment, something shifted. The game wasn't about stopping Brooke anymore. It was about saving Nola, and making sure my sister never got to rewrite another soul's story again. By the time midnight hit, I had enough evidence stacked across Brooke's office floor to bury her ambitions, her credibility, and possibly her entire social life from here to retirement. But evidence alone doesn't arrest anyone. I needed a lawyer. A real one. And fast. So I did what any accountant with a poisoned thermos in his bag and a traumatized child asleep in his guest room would do. I called Benji Rourke. Benji and I weren't exactly close, more. College friend who survived the same group project hell. Then true ride or die. But he was sharp. Top of his class. Now an assistant district attorney in Franklin County. The kind of guy who didn't mess around with sob stories or drama. So I called. And for once, the universe cut me a break. He picked up on the first ring. Nate? Wow, it's late. You good? No, I said. And if I'm wrong about what I'm about to say, I'll buy you a steak dinner and write a public apology. But I think my sister tried to poison me so she could steal our dead mom's estate. Long pause. Then, okay. Gonna need more than that. I told him everything. The mute niece who wasn't mute. The forged documents. The tea. The sedatives and laxatives confirmed by a hospital tech. The withdrawals, slow, methodical, federal flag-dodging withdrawals, totaling nearly $180,000. The fake mental health file she'd started building in case I pushed back. I even mentioned the Indianapolis lawyer. Benji was quiet for a long time. Then he exhaled hard. Jesus, Nate. This isn't just fraud. This is criminal coercion. Abuse. Poisoning. Probably wire fraud. Possibly conspiracy if the lawyer's in on it. How fast can you send me what you have? I already had every page scanned and organized into a Dropbox folder. I sent it while we were still on the phone. 10 minutes later, I got the text. Got it. Working on it. Don't tip her off. That was the hard part. Because my sister thought I was already halfway to the ER with my insides trying to escape my body. She thought I was exactly where she needed me, helpless. So I had to stay that way, convincingly. Cue Oscar-worthy sick texts. Day 2. Brooke. I've never been this sick. Violent nausea. I can barely stand. I'm so sorry to ruin your trip. I'll call urgent care in the morning if I'm not better. She replied with a single emoji. A heart. Not OMG, are you okay? Not do you need help? Not even, tell Nola I love her. Just that one cartoon heart. The next morning, Gwen, Logan's wife, came by. She was a therapist and also the unofficial commander of every group chat she'd ever joined. The kind of woman who wore combat boots with floral skirts and could talk you through trauma while unclogging your sink. She sat on my kitchen stool, sipping stale coffee, arms folded. So your sister has been grooming her child into silence for 5 years and casually attempted to hospitalize you with medicinal tea bombs. Is there a family curse? Or did she just go full evil for fun? She always had control issues. I muttered. Gwen snorted. Control issues are putting your Netflix password under NDA. Brooke created a long con where her own child's voice was a threat. We talked for 2 hours. Gwen helped me organize the timeline. My accountant brain loved her, and reviewed everything with Logan's lab contact. Her therapist's radar went into overdrive when she read the mental health folder Brooke had forged. She wasn't just covering her tracks, Gwen said. She was building a legal narrative. If you found out too soon, she could claim you were delusional. She was ready to gaslight a court. I glanced down the hallway. Nola was in the guest room with her headphones on, reading. She did it to her daughter, I said softly. Nola stopped talking at 3, Gwen. She thought she was saving me. Gwen's face darkened. You want to press charges, right? I want to set the whole plan on fire. She nodded. Good. Because I think we can do it loudly. That night, Benji called again. You're in luck, he said. The lawyer in Indianapolis, Warren Ducker, is squeaky clean. When our office contacted him, he was already suspicious about the paperwork. Your sister was sloppy. The signature didn't feel right, and her story didn't add up. She told him I had, a breakdown. More or less. Said you were unstable and had voluntarily signed over your co-trustee rights for mental health reasons. Which, by the way, isn't a thing. He was already planning to cancel the meeting. But now that he knows what's really going on. I heard the smile in Benji's voice. We're setting a trap. A trap? She's supposed to meet him at 10:15 a.m. on day 4, right? She walks in expecting to finalize the documents. Instead, she finds 2 detectives waiting. We've got interstate fraud, forgery, psychological abuse. And once we had the lab report and the child witness testimony, Nola's going to have to testify? We'll keep it gentle. And optional, if we can help it. But her story is powerful. Especially if she speaks it herself. I looked over at Nola again, curled in a blanket, reading about dinosaurs. The little girl who gave up her voice to protect me. She'll do it, I said. But she's been through enough. I want this handled clean. Benji's voice was calm. We'll handle the fire. You just keep pretending you drank the tea. Day 3. I was halfway through fake dramatically clutching my stomach in front of the hallway mirror, rehearsing my too weak to move voice for another guilt-baiting voicemail to Brooke, when Nola walked in holding a piece of paper and a glue stick. Uncle Nate? She asked, sounding unsure. Can I make a get-well-soon card? For the fake sick? I paused mid-groan. Sweetheart, that might be the best idea I've heard all day. She smiled, that new smile I'd only started seeing this week, the real one. Not the polite, silent, dutiful face, but an actual little kid grin, mischievous and proud. I'm putting glitter on it, she said. Obviously. I nodded. Fake sick requires maximum sparkle. She giggled, and I swear it was the best sound I'd heard in a decade. Down the hallway, Gwen was running point on Operation Burn Brooks' World Down. She was on speaker with a child advocacy lawyer who specialized in trauma victims and minor witnesses. She'll need a recorded statement, the lawyer said. We'll set it up tomorrow morning, neutral setting, child psychologist present. We make this airtight. Meanwhile, Logan was helping me with digital backups, scanning every document, syncing it to 3 separate encrypted folders, and cross-referencing all 14 months of shady withdrawals from the trust. Your sister is the human version of a red flag factory, he muttered, highlighting a sequence of transfers that totaled just under $14,999 each. She did her homework, I said. She's about to fail the test. I'd sent another text to Brooke that morning, playing the part of the pathetically sick little brother. Still can't keep anything down. Weak and dizzy. Doc says maybe norovirus. Mrs. P is watching Nola. Don't come home early, I'll be fine. Just rest. I'm sorry for ruining your trip. She responded with, Oh no. Per you. Glad Nola is okay. We'll talk when I'm back. Feel better. Red heart, red heart, red heart. I stared at those hearts like they were bullet wounds. No follow-up questions. No, which hospital? No, can I talk to my daughter? Just more sugary symbols from the same woman who turned a 3-year-old's voice into a weapon of silence. I showed the message to Gwen. Your sister's a clinical narcissist, she said. And not even a good one. 2 hearts? Please. That afternoon, a courier dropped off a certified copy of the trust paperwork I'd requested. It confirmed everything. Dual signature requirement. Emergency override protocols. Monthly reports, which Brooke had somehow blocked from coming to me. She'd gotten creative, all right. But not careful. She thought I was too mild-mannered. Too trusting. Too focused on spreadsheets and Sunday crossword puzzles to ever notice her slow burn heist. And maybe I had been. But she made one fatal mistake. She underestimated a girl with glitter glue and a memory like a steel trap. That night, while Gwen ran interference with the legal team and Logan walked me through emergency guardianship petitions, Nola sat at the kitchen table drawing dinosaurs. Her latest masterpiece? A cartoonish Tyrannosaurus Rex biting into a tea thermos with big bold letters that said, Never trust Brooke T. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my fake electrolyte drink. Uncle Nate? She said, eyes serious now. If they don't believe me, what happens to me? I knelt down beside her. They will believe you, I said. We have real grown-ups helping. Not just me and my printer. Professionals. Lawyers. Doctors. People who do this kind of thing for a living. She hesitated. But what if Mommy comes back? And there it was. The fear underneath it all. Because Brooke wasn't just a toxic sister or a criminal. To Nola, she was Mom. The only mom she'd ever known. A mom who cuddled her on Instagram and terrified her in private. A mom who turned, I love you, into a muzzle. I put both hands on the table, steady. If your mom tries to come near you again, she'll have to go through me, 6 lawyers, the entire court system, and probably Gwen with a bat. Gwen has a bat, she whispered. Emotionally, I said. But yes. Probably a real one too. She nodded slowly, her eyes finding mine. I'm not scared anymore, she said quietly. I was. But not now. You were scared and brave, I said. At the same time. She gave me a small smile and handed me a drawing. It was me and her. Stick figures holding hands. Underneath, in shaky block letters, my family. The next morning, day 4, everything moved like clockwork. 9 a.m. Gwen and Logan took Nola to the Child Advocacy Center. She gave her recorded statement, calm and clear. Told them about the days she stopped speaking. About the threats. The bruises. The night she overheard Brooke's plan to poison me. Every detail was consistent with what she told me, down to the exact words. The child psychologist said afterward, That girl has more clarity and self-awareness than half the adults I counsel. Benji called at 9:42. Sting is live. Detectives Morrison and Park are already in the Indianapolis office. Lawyers on board. Cameras rolling. Your sister's about to get hit with the full weight of karma and the state of Ohio. Should I pop popcorn? No, he said. Just make sure she doesn't suspect a thing. I opened my text messages. Rough night again. Nurse said I might need fluids. Don't worry, Nola's fine. I'll rest and text you after. 3 dots appeared. Then Brooks' reply. Ugh. Poor baby brother. Get better soon. We're back Friday. We'll bring souvenirs. Beach with umbrella coconut hibiscus. Souvenirs. That's what she thought I'd want. After she tried to drug me into unconsciousness and erase me from my own family's legacy. AF ****** ing souvenir. I sat back and let that sink in. By the time I looked up again, Nola was back from her interview. She kicked off her shoes, climbed onto the couch, and pulled out a book. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. We were less than 24 hours from watching my sister's world collapse. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I felt ready. Day 4. 10:12 a.m. My living room was quiet. Nola sat on the couch beside me, legs tucked under a blanket, hands fidgeting with the edges of her dinosaur sketchbook. Gwen hovered behind the laptop, one hand on my shoulder, the other tapping out a live chat with Benji. Logan was pacing, muttering under his breath about surveillance angles and wishing we had popcorn. And on the screen in front of us? The security feed from a law office 3 hours away. 10:13. The elevator dinged. Here she comes. Brooke walked into the frame like she owned the place. High heels. Designer bag. White blouse tucked into a pencil skirt. Not a hair out of place. She looked exactly like the kind of woman who got sent free PR packages. Just because. Jared followed a few paces behind her, sweating through his collar like a man about to lie on a mortgage application. I studied my sister's face as she approached the receptionist's desk. Calm. Pleasant. She even gave a little wave. Brooke Whitford. We have a 10:15 with Mr. Ducker. The receptionist smiled. Of course. Right this way. My heart slammed against my ribs. I could feel Nola's small hand inch into mine. She didn't say anything, just held on. Not like she was scared. Like she was watching. They disappeared down the hallway. On the next feed, we saw them enter the conference room. Mr. Warren Ducker, the lawyer, sat at the head of the table. 2 others were already inside, Detectives Morrison and Park, dressed like real estate agents but exuding law enforcement energy in that unmistakable way. Brooke paused in the doorway. Her eyes flicked over the room. Her smile faltered, just slightly. This was supposed to be a private meeting, she said, tone sweet, controlled. Sugar-laced warning. Mr. Ducker didn't budge. Please, Mrs. Whitford. Have a seat. She did. Poised. Back straight. Folder in hand. That leather binder from her home office. The one where I'd found the forged documents and fake diagnosis notes. Jared sat beside her like a man awaiting sentencing. Detective Morrison leaned forward. Mrs. Whitford, thank you for coming. Before we begin, we'd like to confirm a few details. You're here regarding a proposed transfer of a family trust, correct? Brooke nodded. That practiced I'm an exhausted mother who just needs help expression in full effect. Yes, of course. My brother isn't well. Mentally. I've had to manage everything myself for over a year. I can provide documentation. Park cut in, placing 2 documents on the table. Can you explain why these signatures don't match? One was a forged authorization form. The other? My real signature, pulled from verified bank records. Brooke leaned in, calm as ever. My brother's handwriting is inconsistent. He's been erratic. And frankly, he's paranoid. I have written records from a therapist who's been monitoring him. That therapist, Morrison said, does not exist. Brooke blinked. Park slid another document across the table. And these withdrawal logs. Can you explain the 14 months of subreportable transactions? Nearly $180,000 moved without your co-trustee's approval? Still, she didn't flinch. He gave verbal permission. I documented everything. Morrison tapped her pen against the table. Did you also get verbal permission to forge your brother's signature on these documents? Brooke's eyes narrowed. I'm sorry, this feels like an interrogation. It is, Park said, voice dry. But we're just getting started. They laid it out, piece by piece, the financials, the lab report from the T, the pattern of forged paperwork, even the surveillance data from Jared's Instagram, geotagged right here in Indianapolis. Brooke started to unravel. Her smile turned into a hard line. Her fingers tightened around the leather binder. "You don't understand," she said sharply. "My brother is fragile. He's not fit to handle the trust. He doesn't even have a family." And then Morrison pulled out a tablet. "There's one more piece of evidence." She hit play. And Nola's voice filled the room. We watched the recording from her interview. "When I was 3, Mommy told me if I ever talked again, something bad would happen to Uncle Nate. She said my words would hurt him. So I stopped talking to protect him." On screen, Brooke went still. Like someone had yanked the gravity from the room. Nola continued. "She lied to everyone. Said I was born mute. But I wasn't. She just made me too scared to speak. And last week, I heard her say she was going to make Uncle Nate sick. So she could take everything." The room was quiet. Brooke stared at the tablet like it had stabbed her. "That's fake," she said. "She can't talk. She hasn't talked." Morrison's voice was low, but clear. "Your daughter wasn't born mute. Medical records confirm she was speaking normally until age 3. Her mutism is trauma-induced, caused by emotional abuse. Your abuse." Brooke opened her mouth. Nothing came out. And then Jared finally spoke. "I want a lawyer." He turned to the detectives. "I'll cooperate. Everything. I'll testify. I knew about the plan. The fake documents. Brooke said it wasn't a crime if no one got hurt." He faltered, glancing toward her. "I was scared. But I'll tell you everything." Brooke spun toward him like a blade. "You coward! I did this for us. You think they're going to help you?" "Mrs. Whitford," Park said calmly. "Stand up. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, forgery, attempted poisoning, and child endangerment." We watched, stunned, silent, as they cuffed her. She didn't go quietly. She was still talking, pleading, trying to explain, blame, redirect. But there was no one left to convince. We saw them escort her out of the building, down the steps, into the waiting police vehicle. Nola watched it all. Her eyes locked on the screen. No flinching. No tears. When the car door closed behind her mother, she whispered, "It's over." I wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "You did this," I said. "You saved both of us." Gwen exhaled hard. "Well, guess we can cancel that tea subscription box I bought you last Christmas." We all laughed, a little broken, a little breathless. But real. The storm had passed. And we were still standing. 2 weeks later, I sat in a courtroom that smelled like paper and stress, dressed in my best blazer, the one I usually saved for audits and funerals. Across the aisle sat Nola in a purple dress she'd picked herself, legs swinging off the chair, holding a book about prehistoric sea reptiles in one hand and my fingers in the other. This was the custody hearing. Emergency custody had already been granted. But this was the big one, permanent guardianship. No more limbo. No more wondering where she'd sleep or whether someone could take her away again. Just home. The judge was an older man with wispy gray hair and a voice that reminded me of every grandpa in every small-town diner. But his eyes were sharp. He didn't miss much. He reviewed the case file slowly. Brooke's arrest record. Jared's signed waiver of parental rights. Nola's taped statement. The trust documents. The lab report on the poison tea. The man barely blinked when he read the list of charges. Honestly, I didn't either anymore. The part that still made my stomach clench? The trauma report. The one written by Nola's psychologist. 5 pages of quiet terror, small bruises, isolation tactics, and a diagnosis of selective mutism rooted in coercive control, by her own mother. Brooke hadn't just committed fraud. She'd broken her daughter. Bit by bit. Smile by smile. Hug by hug. And Nola still slept with a light on. Still flinched when she heard stilettos on hard floors. Still hesitated before speaking, like every sentence came with a toll. The judge finally looked up. "Miss Rains." Then he caught himself. "Mr. Rains, excuse me." I cleared my throat. "That's me, Your Honor. I've reviewed the petition and supporting documentation. Are you prepared to assume full legal guardianship of Miss Nola Whitford?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes. Completely. As long as she wants me." He nodded, then turned to Nola. "Miss Whitford," he said gently, "I understand you've recently begun speaking again. Is that correct?" She nodded. "Yes, sir." He leaned forward slightly. "Would you feel comfortable telling the court, In your own words, where you'd like to live? Nola looked up at me. Then stood. She adjusted the hem of her purple dress, cleared her throat, and said, I want to live with Uncle Nate. The judge nodded. And why's that, sweetheart? She took a deep breath. Because he listens. Even when I couldn't talk, he listened. He didn't make me feel broken. He never said I was too quiet or too much trouble. He read to me. He made dinosaur pancakes. He let me sleep in the guest room when I had bad dreams. He helped me be brave. She paused, glancing around the room like she was making sure it was okay to keep going. I don't want to live with someone who tells me my voice is dangerous, she added. I want to live with someone who missed my voice. The courtroom went quiet. The judge adjusted his glasses, cleared his throat, and said softly, Thank you, Nola. That was very brave. He signed the papers. Guardianship granted. After the hearing, we stepped out into the parking lot and stood in the sunshine like we weren't entirely sure what to do with ourselves. Nola tugged on my sleeve. Does this mean we can get a dog now? I blinked. That's your takeaway from all this? She gave me a hopeful smile. I laughed. We'll talk about it. We got in the car. She asked if we could play music, not kids' music. Real songs, she said. Ones with drums. So we did. She rolled the window down and let the air tangle her hair while Queen blasted from the speakers. She didn't talk much that ride home. She just was. She existed out loud. Unafraid. It was the best silence I'd ever known. The next few days were a blur of school forms, therapy appointments, and reprogramming every corner of my apartment to fit a 9-year-old's orbit. My second bedroom became her official space. Purple walls, shelves full of books, a lamp shaped like a stegosaurus, and a framed poster that read, Your voice matters. One night, while I was making grilled cheese, she sat at the table coloring. Uncle Nate? Yeah, kiddo? Do you think Mommy always wanted to hurt people? Or did she become like that? I froze mid-flip. That's a hard question, I said. Sometimes people get so used to being in control that they forget how to love anyone they can't control. She nodded slowly. She said nice things in mean ways. And mean things in nice ways. That's a pretty perfect description. She paused. But Grandma wasn't like that, right? No, I said. Grandma saw people clearly. Even when it hurt. She was quiet for a beat. Then, I think she saw me. She did, I said. And she'd be so proud of you. Nola smiled and bit into her sandwich. That night, I walked past her room and paused at the door. She was asleep in a blanket fort she'd built between her dresser and bed, snoring softly. In one hand, she clutched a flashlight. In the other, her glittery "Get well soon" card now propped up on her nightstand. She'd written something new on the back in shaky block letters. I'm not quiet because I'm scared anymore. I stood there for a long time. And then I turned off the hallway light. Because she didn't need it anymore. The day Brooke was sentenced, I didn't go to court. I sat at home on the balcony with a cup of black coffee, Nola's T-Rex mug across from me, filled with apple juice, no tea allowed in this house ever again, and we watched the morning light climb over the apartment buildings like nothing in the world was broken anymore. Benji called at 9:37 a.m. It's done, he said. I didn't ask for details. But he gave them anyway. Fraud, forgery, attempted poisoning, child endangerment, coercive control, and interstate wire fraud. 12 years, no parole before 8. She pled out. I nodded, staring out at the horizon. Good. She cried. He added. Said she was the real victim. Claimed she was misunderstood. That her daughter turned on her because of outside influence. Judge didn't buy any of it. Neither did the world, I said. Nola was listening from the sliding door. She didn't ask who I was talking about. She already knew. That afternoon, we made waffles. Not frozen ones, real waffles, from scratch. Nola insisted on adding blueberries, which exploded during cooking and turned the whole batch purple. She was thrilled. We ate them on the floor, picnic style, with her dinosaurs arranged around the plate like royal guests. Halfway through, she said, Uncle Nate? Yeah? I think my Ankylosaurus is the mom now. I blinked. Of the other dinosaurs? She nodded. They voted. I grinned. That's how all great governments begin. She giggled and popped another blueberry waffle bite into her mouth. A week later, the trust audit was complete. Almost all the money Brooke stole was recovered. Between the flag transfers, insurance protections, and some backtracking with the Indianapolis lawyer, who, bless him, documented everything obsessively, we got back roughly $170,000. A few thousand had vanished, but I didn't care. The trust was now under my sole management. No more dual signature clause. No loopholes. No little sister with a soft smile and a sharp pen hiding behind. Family loyalty. I moved a portion into a dedicated education fund for Nola. The rest? I left alone. Walk-away money, as always. But this time, for both of us. A future fund. Ours. Brooke sent a letter from county jail. It was handwritten in her looping, curated cursive. The same one she used on birthday cards and fake doctor notes. The tone was syrupy. Apologetic. Full of manipulative grace. I hope one day you'll find it in your heart to forgive me. I was under so much pressure, Nate. You've always been the responsible one. I thought you could handle it. I read it once. Then again. Then I showed it to Nola. She stared at it for a long time. Her face was unreadable. Do you want to write back? I asked gently. She shook her head. No. You sure? I don't need her to know how I feel, she said. She's not the boss of my voice anymore. I nodded. Fair. We didn't talk about it again. We didn't need to. That was the last message Brooke ever sent. Life started to feel normal again. Real normal. Not the pretend kind we used to fake in Brooke's perfect house. Nola went back to school. Her new teachers had never known her as the mute kid. She made friends fast, friends who talked too much and laughed too loud and accepted her completely. She joined the after-school art club. Came home with glue in her hair and glitter on her eyebrows. I bought industrial cleaner and just accepted that my life would now always sparkle. She talked all the time now. Not because she had to. Because she wanted to. She talked about everything. About how T-Rexes had banana-sized teeth. About how she didn't like cucumbers but did like pickles, which made no sense but okay. About how Mrs. Patterson's dog peed on her shoes and she forgave it anyway because he has a tiny brain and a kind heart. She asked deep questions too. Do you think Grandma knew what Brooke was like? I think she had a feeling, I said. She tried to warn me once, Nola said. She said, watch your mama, little one. Something's wrong in her heart. I paused. Did you understand what she meant? Not then, she said. But I do now. We were quiet for a long moment. Then she added, she didn't mean Mommy was sick. She meant Mommy was mean. Yeah. She got it. Every Saturday, we started a tradition, balcony breakfast. Just the two of us. Pancakes or waffles or, once, an accidentally burnt frittata we pretended was toast lasagna. Nola would sit cross-legged with a mug of cocoa, I'd sip coffee, and we'd talk about our weeks. One morning, out of nowhere, she asked, do you think there are more kids like me? Ones who stop talking to stay safe? That question hit hard. I nodded. Yeah. I think there are. What happens to them? Sometimes they stay quiet, I said. And sometimes someone listens long enough for them to feel safe again. She nodded like that made perfect sense. I hope they find their listener, she said. I looked at her. So do I. That night, she fell asleep on the couch reading a book about dragonflies. Her head rested on a pillow embroidered with the word brave, a gift from Gwen. I covered her with a blanket and watched her breathe, soft and slow and safe. And I thought, this is what justice looks like. Not a gavel. Not a prison sentence. Not even an apology letter. Justice is a child who isn't scared anymore. Justice is a quiet house where no one's pretending. Justice is pancakes and dinosaur drawings and bedtime stories and purple glitter glue on my dining table forever. Justice is Nola, finally free, finally loud, finally home. And me, finally hearing her. Last night, Nola fell asleep in my lap while we watched a nature documentary about whales. She snored softly halfway through a scene about migration and drooled on my sweatshirt. I didn't move. Not an inch. I just sat there holding her, thinking about everything we'd survived. She got her voice back. I got a family I never expected. And Brooke? She's behind bars, where her lies can't reach us. We're not the people we were 6 months ago. She's not the silent little girl anymore. And I'm not the brother who kept giving my sister the benefit of the doubt. We chose each other. That's what family is supposed to be. And tomorrow? We're getting a dog. She already picked the name, Gerald. Of course.